What is up, everybody? This is Dr. Chris Featherstone here for yet another episode of Unscripted. Listen, it's Tuesday night. You know what that means. I have some of the biggest, the baddest, the best wrestlers of today and yesteryear. And tonight is no different. Why is it no different? I'm glad you asked. You ask the same question every week. I usually get annoyed by that, but I don't for this question because why is it no different? And so this is the reason why it's no different, because this guy is just a nice guy, man. You know, he here's the thing, man. There's certain people who plays a role and plays a character in the world of professional wrestling, and their character is very parallel to their real life. I know a lot of wrestlers, and I know a lot of wrestlers who are heels who are like really, really nice guys. I know some baby faces who are not as nice as they are as a baby face. But this guy matches up with his lovable, just white meat baby face character. There's not a lot of those nowadays, but this guy, about 35 years ago, man, he was about 36 years ago. Unfortunately, he was forced to retire. But in the mid 80s, man, this guy was one of the hottest baby faces in all of professional wrestling. And you know what? I've got to know him this year. And he was on my show, Pancakes and Power Sams, the 10-year anniversary show back in April. Him and Vince Russo were next to me. And Vince Russo marked out, man, because he highly respects this guy just like I do. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, he is a baby face at heart just as much as he is in the ring. Former WCW, former NWA United States champion, as my guy Nikita Koloff would say, Maga T.A. How are you, my man?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing wonderful, man. It's great to have you on. It's good to talk to you again. A different show, but same Magnum. So it's good to see you. Good to talk to you again, my man. Before we get into these questions, man, you know, this encounter of us meeting again and you confiscating a few hours of your sleep time to hang out with me late at night. This is because of some really cool news that's a mutual good friend of ours, Greg Gagne, launched, and with some help, and you're one of the people he's partnering up with for some action figures. Let the listeners know what we got up the pike with that venture.
Yeah, so 15 months ago, I get this call from Greg Gagne, voice from the past I haven't talked to in a blue moon, and he's telling me all about this new group that was getting together to kind of try to revitalize some of the legends of wrestling and interject some new blood into the old stories and kind of bring these people back around to some relative conversations in wrestling, like Lou Thez and Vern Gagne and guys that really that really were the pioneers of the sport, particularly being some of the first amazing programming that was on television. So they approached me first because they wanted to do a figure of myself as well, and I was really flattered and listened. And I said, sure, because I'd had one my entire career that was done by Mattel like 10 years ago, and so I was flattered that I was asked. And as I talked to them, and then we heard more about their plan and kind of what they were doing, and met the founder of the company, Steve Rosenthal, as we talked, and he started kind of learning a little bit more about me and my business background, and just my passion still for the business. They decided to bring me in the fold, so to speak, and make me an equity partner in the company, and try to help them build this thing. And I will have to say, of all the ventures I've been a part of, I've never seen anything quite this intricate to put together from scratch, because although all the people were already in place that knew how to do the things, bringing action figures to life in from nothing is not no small feat. It takes money, it takes amazing artists, it takes all kinds of things to make that happen. And this really is, even though it's between us, we've got a couple hundred years of experience of people on this team. We didn't have millions of dollars sitting in a bank somewhere targeted at doing this. So it's taken quite a while to put together. But to your point, yes, this Friday is going to be live and on a store where people will be able to, get their placeholder to secure, whatever they want of the first line. There'll be six of them, myself being one of them, Kerry Von Erich and Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, Lou Thez, and Vern Gagne, and it's really just like kind of watching something be birthed almost. So it's been an exciting adventure.
Nice, nice. Is there a website up and launched yet?
It's launching at noon on Friday,
Nice,
and
nice.
powertownwrestling.com, I believe. And we've also partnered with a very established organization in High Spots Wrestling that's going to do our fulfillment for us.
Mm,
So that's a big feather in our cap, because we
yeah.
have somebody that's used to handling these kind of sales,
Mhm.
customer satisfaction, timely deliveries, and all those kind of things. And then we took even another step in to make the authenticity of this even more desirable. We entered into an agreement with Dave Milliken, who's the
Ah,
famous belt
belt
maker, as
maker. Yeah.
we all of us in the business know. And he took over the line that Reggie Parks had made
Hmm.
famous for all the years, my U.S. belt, and just countless different historic title belts over the years. So we've entered into an agreement with them to license and authenticate the products that we're putting out, and just really excited about it. It's not a cheap undertaking, but I think it's going to be worthwhile. At the end of the day, it's going to be something special.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've interviewed Dave before, man. Nice guy. I love talking to people like that, like the person behind Reggie Parks to be known for being the belt maker. And so Parks just passed about a year or two ago, didn't he?
Absolutely, wasn't that long ago, and I go way back with Reggie. He and I were in Florida Championship wrestling together back in the early '80s, and he was doing some refereeing at that point in his career, and that's actually before he turned full time into the belt making.
Yeah.
So just an amazing guy, and I'm glad to kind of keep his heritage and history going in this relationship too.
Love it. Awesome, man. Let's get into these questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's start with Guillermo. How was working with the Nature Boy, Ric Flair,
Oh,
in your opinion, on his last match?
well, Bill Apter asked me that same question off the cuff, and my son and I actually went to Nashville. And we were there, part of that celebration of Rick's career. And to me, and I mean this, he really is such a giving guy. He gave something back to all the people that kind of loved him, supported him through this health crisis and thing that he had that just about took him out. And he wanted to have walk that aisle one more time, and I supported him in that. And because he overcame so much personally, it had to be it had to be something unfinished business kind of for him after being in the jaws of death,
Yeah.
and most people thinking he wasn't going to make it out of it.
Yeah.
So they created an amazing event. He made a lot of people a lot of money. A lot, we were all able to take part in a great convention that was put on surrounding it, and it was like it was like turning the clock back. The people that were backstage from the old TBS crew,
Mhm.
Keith Mitchell, and I mean producers, and it was just a who's
David
who.
Crockett was there.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
The Undertaker came down to
Yep.
pay his respect, and
Yep.
Rey
Mick Foley.
Mysterio, Mick
Mhm.
Foley, and Bret Hart, and
Yep.
so it was special, and it was and the backstage part of it was done so well that everybody got to have those moments with each other and not be run over top of by the fans at
Yeah.
the same time. So it was cool.
Now I know that you and Flair were oftentimes foes. But Flair played the babyface this time. Were you ever tempted? He was bleeding, a crimson mask, as Gordon Soley would say. Were you ever tempted to run in there and save your old pal Rick and throw a belly to belly on Jarrett's or Lethal?
No, I wouldn't have stolen a moment of what was his glory and his well-deserved, you know, saying a farewell to, the millions of fans
Yeah.
that he's had over the years. It was just cool to be there.
It's interesting. Back to your finisher. There's certain people who really makes kind of normal moves like spectacular. Like the Rock it's just an elbow drop. It's the people's elbow. Hogan is
Right.
for 30 years his finisher was 40 years his finisher was a leg drop. You had a belly to belly suplex, but you made it. But you're tall and you were muscular and you made it impactful. What was it about the belly to belly suplex that you chose to be your finisher?
So young in my career, I wrestled a lot of inexperienced people. And one time I was in a match in down in Florida when I was in Florida Championship Wrestling, and this great big kid was in the ring with me, and he was green as grass and didn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch, and really probably didn't have any business being in there. And anyway, he stumbled into me, and I instinctively waist locked him and belly to bellied him and threw him like a sack of potatoes, and he was close to 300 pounds. And the light bulb went off in my head. I said, you know what? If I can get my arms around anybody, if they want to go, they're gonna go one way or the other.
Mhm.
We can do it the easy way or the hard way.
Yeah.
And so I knew that a finish had to be something you could do to anybody
Mhm.
to be successful with it, because you can't say, oh well, that somebody's too big or they're too tall, too short, whatever. Some things don't look good, but I could do that to anybody. I could lock my hands around their waist, and I just hung on to that, and there was nobody, using something like that definitive, out of that kind of move. It
Mhm.
would have been a high spot, back in the day,
Yep.
and it got over.
Yeah, it sure did. Absolutely. Who's your villain that you're most pleased to throw the belly to belly on? Would it be Tully perhaps? Or Nikita?
Telly was easy to hate. he
Yes.
was really easy to hate.
Yes.
And he, and to your point about personalities and whatnot, I mean, we always got along very well professionally, even in the thick of things and everything else. But he had that little thing about him that could just rub you the wrong way, even if you liked him, So it was kind of
It's the
fun to get.
horseman mentality, man.
Yeah, they just kind of had that little chip
Yeah,
on their
little chip on the
shoulder, that
shoulder,
little
exactly.
thing, and and really, in all seriousness, he's got to be one of the toughest people on the planet because I almost beat him to death for 8 months. I mean, we had an 8 month long program,
Yep.
and Bill Watts is the one that taught me how to throw a punch. So if that tells you anything about what my punches were like to be on the receiving end, Bill
Mhm.
didn't want you to be able to see through anything.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
short of a clenched fist and trying to take your head off, that getting hit with a barrage of punches could be not a fun thing. And
Yeah.
and he he was like the ever ready bunny. He took a licking and kept on ticking.
Yeah. Nice. What's the art and science of a good working punch?
Well, it's momentum. It's that long visual. It's like throwing a ball.
Mm,
If it's short and because they can't feel it, all they can see is the visual
mhm.
of the arc of it and the speed and it needs to look like it's making contact in a part of somebody's anatomy that you would throw a punch if you're in a fight.
Mhm.
These guys that hits people up to the side of their ear and all kind of goofy crap like that. I mean, Bob Cook throws one of the best punches in the world, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever watched Bob back in the day. He was middle of the card guy, but he threw an unbelievable punch,
Yeah.
and Michael Hayes could throw a great punch, and there's
Jerry
different
Lawler
guys.
threw a good
Jerry Lawler, oh my gosh, yeah,
indeed.
yeah. Bill Dundee, another
Indeed.
one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. For
So yeah, it's the art, it's the visual. You don't want to kill somebody because obviously they can't take too many of them if you knock them out.
yeah, yeah. Bobby Fulton had a good working punch too. You ever work
Oh
with
my,
Bobby?
uh, you talking about Bobby Fulton or
Bobby
Bobby
Fulton.
Eaton?
Well,
Well,
Eaton did too.
Bobby Eaton had those great big old paws, boy. He
Yeah,
threw a
yeah,
great punch. But
yeah,
no, yeah, Bobby Fulton. No, he was always in the babyface side,
yeah,
pretty much. So I didn't really get in the ring with him.
yeah. Good stuff, man. Let's see here. Rorito's asking, who do you consider were the four most influential wrestlers in your career, and what was it feuding with Wahoo McDaniel, the Chief?
Boy, well, Dusty would have to be the most influential, period. I mean, he's the one that opened the opened the gate to the greatest push anybody could ever want to have in the business for me. So our friendship, our relationship, our professional relationship was second to none, and he had just huge impact on my career.
Mhm.
Early on, Bill Dundee, when he was a booker in Mid South, he was the one that really enabled me to develop the Magnum character
Mhm.
and for me to really be able to come out of my own skin and find a place I was comfortable with this persona. And I credit him greatly because he's the one that gave me the chops and the mindset and the things that I needed
Nice,
when I came to work for Crockett.
nice. Let's see here. Do you know anything about the CM Punk situation? All the buzz going on with
I
him.
don't know if it's one of the greatest works of all time or if it's a shoot. I can't figure it out. I mean, I don't think I hate to think somebody could be that big of a jerk
Yeah.
or egomaniac. And I've known some pretty big egomaniacs in my time.
Mhm.
But you know, I mean, I've got to think there's some people there that would straighten him out
Yeah.
if there wasn't some element of business in this thing somewhere because you wouldn't you wouldn't back in he wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes back in the mid 80s
Mhm.
talking like that.
Mhm.
Somebody would have straightened it out real quick.
Yes, indeed. Uh,
Wahoo would have been one of them.
that's
You
right.
mentioned Wahoo. The chief would not have put up with that.
The chief would have been chiefing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Jimmy's asking, we talked about Flair already. But what about Kamala? Working with Kamala in the ring, how
And
was it?
so I got to work with with Kamala, some in Mid South, and then he came in, worked a piece with me with Crockett's at the Great American Bash, and he
Mhm.
was a sweetheart of a guy. I mean, he was absolutely fantastic to work with, and he was so big and so agile. My gosh, I mean, he could move, like nobody's business. Some guy, weighed about 380 pounds. I mean, it was crazy
Yeah.
what he could do. And he kind of came by. We had a match, and then he was on his way to New York, where
Mm.
of course he made his biggest run.
Yeah,
Up
made some
there.
good money with Hogan, made some good money with Taker.
Yeah,
Although I heard that I like to watch a lot of I'm not a big fan of the new school stuff, although I, you know, get paid to talk about it, which is an honor and a blessing. But I'm an old school guy. I'm an old school wrestling guy, and I love watching a lot of old school wrestling documentaries about people. And I heard over the years, there was a significant difference when it came to payouts with when he feuded with Hogan and when he feuded with Taker. And so that was unfortunate, that the payouts between the two were different because it takes a good heel to
yeah.
make a good baby face.
Well, and that speaks really poorly of the organization
Yeah.
because I can tell you, I worked for some great payoff people, and
Mhm.
Jimmy Crockett was fantastic. Bill Watts was a very fair man.
Mhm.
Uh, even back to I mean, my start, Don Owens, my first week in the business, and I hadn't wrestled one single match. I made $900 in 1980, and I thought I'd hit the lottery and won $1 million.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've worked for some, really fair payoff folks, and I don't understand that mentality
Yeah.
because nobody can go in there and do it by
That's
themselves.
exactly right.
I mean, I can see there being some difference if you've got a Hulk Hogan who could go out there and you could book him with just about anybody at one point in time, and he was gonna, you know, they were gonna blow the roof off the sales,
Mhm.
but it shouldn't be east and west.
Yeah, exactly. I
You know?
agree. Yep. Leonard is asking, with you and Flair, were you supposed to take the title off of him?
Yeah, I was. And as a matter of fact, the plan, it sounds so ludicrous today because we know what an amazing career, he had for, he just finished wrestling it, in 2022.
Yeah.
But the Crockett's had this mentality that they wanted this youth movement. And I was 27 years old, and Rick is 10 years older than I am. And they at that time were looking at Rick like he should be on the tail end of his career, and they wanted him to become more like the Jack Nicholas of the Crockett promotion
Mm.
thing and a spokesperson and all these things, and they wanted young blood in that role, and they wanted the title to be the perception to be on a youth type movement.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a that was a done deal
Mm.
as far as the committee and the NWA and everybody that had to uh, approve it back then because
Mm.
they had a whole group of people that had to approve it. And I'm not saying I would have kept the belt for 2 years or what might have taken place,
Mhm.
but it would have certainly have been a different landscape. And I'm sure he and I would have been going back and forth with the belt and I've been running around with Tully and Nikita all over again and regurgitating all that and just all and then I had just started a program with Jimmy Garvin
Mhm.
when I had the crash, and Jimmy was such an unbelievably talented heel that we hadn't even scratched the surface because I don't know that anybody could outtalk Jimmy Garvin on when he was cranked up and dialed in
Yeah.
and he was doing his
Fluffing his
stick.
hair.
Oh man, I mean, and he could go. I
Yeah.
mean, the guy was like 220 pounds and in shape like a racehorse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, like if we'd have got him like elevated up and really got the heat on him, I could have had the same pace match with Jimmy that I had been able to have with Tully, because
Mhm.
Tully was the fastest, quickest, most agile heel I'd ever worked with, hands down. I mean, you give him a bump and he's up in your face, you know, ready for another one, ready for another one. For everybody else, I had to turn it down 3 notches, but Jimmy Garvin had that same capability.
Mm.
So, I'm sorry we didn't get to see where that story could have gone.
Yeah. Rizu is saying, "What an honor! Is there a current star you would have liked to face?"
As ironic as it is, the guy that I would have loved to work with would have been Stone Cold,
Mm.
because he got to kind of take the 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 path that I was starting and take it to a whole different millennium.
Mhm.
Because when I had the deal with Nikita and Bob Geigel strips me of the U.S. title, Bob Geigel's the president of the NWA.
Mhm.
And so this, young babyface Magnum T.A knocks out the president of, the NWA, which, wasn't something that happened on a regular basis back then.
Yeah.
But they were trying to let me get off on the edge and be this kind of heel babyface lone wolf kind
Mhm.
of attitude guy. And Steve got to do all that. He got to take it, twist the knob off, throw it up against the wall, say, "Here, see ya." and uh,
Nice.
and I I really enjoyed watching his work, what
Yeah.
he did. He's so great on the mic, and just a good guy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Along those lines, as far as WWE, would you like to work for Vince? And do you think he'd be forced to retire?
Hmm. I it is it's hard to look back and say, because we had painted this picture in our heads that we were just in such this battle, in this competition with them, and the only way that that would have ever happened could have been a couple things. I mean, if the Crockett's had just, if when if they had still ended up losing the business and sold out to Turner,
Mhm.
and they weren't, and I wasn't working for the Crockett family, that might have been the move I would have made,
Mhm.
because my loyalty was to the family.
Mhm.
When Turner took over well, I can tell you right now, Jim Hurd and I wouldn't have lasted 3 seconds together. So that would have never worked.
He probably would have
Uh,
told you to cut your beautiful mullet.
yeah, he would have had an opinion about something that he wasn't qualified to speak on. He needed to be selling pizzas somewhere.
Yeah, Pizza Hut.
So yeah, but again, it had the thing played out, and because there was always this thing between Dusty and I, we always laughed about. We always talked about, Madison Square Gardens, and that's the only arena I never got to work
Uh,
ever. I worked all the big show buildings, all over the United States. Never got to work Madison Square Gardens,
yeah,
and it's a piece of me that feels like if you didn't get a chance to, hit a home run there, you missed out on something. So I
yeah.
would have liked to try that.
What was the what would you consider the southern version of MSG? Maybe either the Greensboro or the Omni?
It would probably, from a historic standpoint, probably Greensboro for the Crockett's.
Mm,
I mean,
yeah.
the Omni was synonymous, of course, with Georgia Championship Wrestling
Hmm.
before Jimmy took everything over, but Greensboro was you know,
Yeah.
just their special place.
Yeah.
Wasn't any more electric than the Omni. The Omni was electric. It was crazy. I mean, and so was the Charlotte Coliseum, and so was Norfolk Scope. I
Hmm.
mean, we did capacity business in all those buildings pretty regularly, but from a historical standpoint, selling out Greensboro and main event there was probably the epitome of what we did in the South. I
Nice.
think.
Nice. All right, let's do a 2 minute lightning round so you can get to bed, man. Let's see. Roy is asking, think about words of advice you got from Dusty Baby.
Well, Dusty, he dreamed with me. and he dreamed out loud and in living color. And we were always looking for that
Sweet.
next lightning bolt to jump on and the next adventure.
Nice.
So with him, the taking care of business tour never ended.
Nice. Elvis, the hardest you work with in the ring, and memories with Piper and Rapid Ricky Romero.
Ricky Romero. Well, Piper and I only worked in the ring one time,
Hmm.
and it was in Florida when I was working in the middle of the card, and I went out to put him over, and he put me over. He said, "Kid, I'm out of here tomorrow, and they won't ever see me again. You'll be here making a living."
Very nice.
He
Paying
said,
it
"Thank you."
forward.
Yeah, yeah,
Rowdy. Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Good stuff, man. Hardest to work with in the ring. Hit the hardest. Who hit the hardest as far
Oh,
as
who hit the hardest? Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Well, Nikita hit the hardest.
Okay.
Because I told Nikita to hit me one time, and I found out why he didn't throw a punch because he didn't know how, and he back killed me.
Wow. Steve thinks that you should be in the 2023 WWE Hall of Fame. I agree. Do you think? Think
You
there's a
know,
shot?
it's so subjective. I mean, there's so many people there that deserve to be there. There's so many people there for who knows what reason. I mean, I'd love to be there just because my friends are there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just every time I see. I will say this: the all the times that I've been around any of the McMahon family, they've treated me like family. They've been warm, they've
Nice.
been caring, they've been respectful, and if they want to, I would welcome it with open arms. If they didn't, I'd never hold any animosity toward them either. So
Triple H is a student of the game when it comes to old school wrestling, and so it wouldn't be a surprise if Magnum T.A and Nikita are both in the Hall of Fame next year. I would be a big fan of that. Genesis of Magnum, was it based on Magnum P.I.?
it was based on Andre the Giant seeing that likeness of me compared to Tom Selleck,
Mm-hmm.
and over breakfast one morning, him giving me that name. He
Mm.
said, "You need to be
And of
Magnum
course,
T.A."
T.A being Terry Allen, right?
Exactly.
Nice. Favorite memory of Sting?
Watching him just develop, he was like so uncomfortable in his own skin and out there, portraying this beaten on his chest character and everything else. And watching him develop and then going through the whole dark Sting, the whole transition and things he made. He's a special guy, and I'm glad he had the brilliant career that he was able to have.
Nice. One more question before we get to a question. Speaking of Bill Apter, he's in the building. He's one of your favorite. You're one of his favorite people in the world. Bill Apter says. So let's see. And the last question here is from Riju. Do you think Charlotte Flair belongs in the same conversation as her father?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that DNA is so undeniable, and she has carried a path in the women's entertainment side of the business that has so transcended it just being a gender thing anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, will she have the longevity and do it as long? I doubt that very seriously, but the impact that she's made and the legacy that she's made on her own is definitely in the right conversation, because
nice.
as an athlete and a performer, uh, I don't think anybody can touch her.
Let the listeners know one more time about Power Team Wrestling. We got a big launch coming up on Friday.
As is Power Town,
Power
and
Town Wrestling.
yeah, Power Town, where the wrestling lives on, and is we have got so many just amazing folks on board representing the 50s, 60s, 70s of wrestling. I can't wait for the fans to see the things we've got in the pipeline, things we're gonna bring out to memorialize some really unique individuals, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Nice. I said Power Team. I had Sting in my mind. Power Team USA with him and Warrior.
Yeah.
So at Power Town, at underscore Power Town, looks like.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm actually going to put the Twitter link on in the chat right now. And so everybody go ahead and copy that and paste it when we get off the air, which is about now. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Chris. This guy right here is one of the greatest baby faces in pro wrestling history, Magnum T.A. And this is Unscripted. Have a good night, everybody. So long.
Thank you guys.
My pleasure.